Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. We are back after a week's movie protocol, which we will get into in a minute, which actually I forgot to mention that. So I guess we'll start off with that first. But before that, I am your host, Roddykat. And you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeat on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
With Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Brooklyn be the place where I serve things.
Right, and you can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and give us all the 5-star positive reviews.
Yeah. Folks, like I said, we have we didn't have a show last week because we were on movie protocol for that Marvel Insect movie, which is being Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and we are going to go into some, well, it's been a week, but we'll go into some spoiler lights.
Super light. I'm going to ring the spoiler bell anyway in case you want to just completely avoid all spoilers. So, discussion. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania incoming in 3, 2, 1. Here they come. So, I have a few thoughts.
Okay, go for it.
Kind of just simple things.
Mm-hmm.
They were not joking when they subtitled this movie Quantumania. That was so apt. That's something when I was watching it, I literally like elbowed my buddy and said, they weren't kidding when they said Quantumania, now were they? We all had a good laugh about it.
Indeed.
You know?
Because if the trailer didn't tell you anything, it's definitely all set in the quantum realm, or mostly set in the quantum realm. It's not to jump ahead to the end of it, but or not to the end of what I think about it, but I'm not still sure how I feel about it.
It's I'll tell you in very broad strokes, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very different Ant-Man movie from the first two. Vastly different. And obviously they use it as a vehicle for the introduction of Kang the Conqueror. And I think they do a pretty good job of that. I think, though, that in terms of developing the Ant-Man character and the Ant-Man family of characters, I felt that it was a little lacking. A little.
Okay.
A little. But I feel that overall, I enjoyed the movie. I'll tell you that my personal highlights were Kang, Michelle Pfeiffer still getting it done.
Okay, as Janet.
Still.
Okay.
Still getting it done. And this iteration, this version of MODOK had me giggling and laughing, sometimes uncontrollably in the theater, every time MODOK was on the screen. I literally I couldn't even hold it in sometimes.
Yeah. So the funny part about that before you keep going was that it makes so sense given the first movie and the character that ends up being MODOK from that, because like, okay, it makes total sense coming from the end of that movie from here. So I was like, all right, cool. It's not the version you know, but it is a version, and it works out in here.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, you were saying?
No. And I think that's essentially that's essentially like my biggest positive takeaways. I think that, I've heard a couple of podcasts and a couple of reviews, and I'm not so keen on the portrayal of Cassie. I feel that Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp was basically pointless in this movie. And let me see, what else was I not really so keen on? Oh, no Luis. That's a big spoiler.
Yes. No Luis. We did get other dude, in a way, but yeah, but we didn't get Luis.
Right. No Luis. I was very disappointed by that.
I know. It was I felt that too, because I was like, yeah.
Like all the way to the end, there's two. I was going to say there's a mid-credit and a post-credit. No Luis. I was waiting to see Luis. I was like, please, at the end of this, have Luis come up.
Right. And the other person that we do get that's been in the first two movies doesn't even play the character that they from that movie. In fact, I thought was a totally different other person.
Right. Because
I legit thought that was the character they played was Ryan Reynolds.
Right. And what's funny is that I think the character, the Baskin Robbins manager, is the returning character.
Yes.
Right. So that's cool, but that's not the returning character I wanted.
Right.
I wanted Luis.
I am with you 100% on that. I was like, yeah, this movie was definitely lacking in Luis. At least to come back for, oh yeah, so you tell me something.
Just a cameo. We got we got a Randall Park cameo. I was like, hey,
yeah, we did. But I feel like that was it wasn't used footage because it was new. But I felt like it when I first saw it, I was like, wow, is this they just reused something from the last movie? But no, not really. No, but it was good to see him though, regardless. So,
I was like, Jimmy Woo.
Yeah. So that was a good part. Now, positives for me, what's her face? Gentora.
Oh goodness.
That was a major positive for me. They give her, you know what? They can give her her own movie for all I care, and get Quacks or whatever his name is, and some of the mother was in there. But yeah, give her own movie. I don't know. It was kind of weird to me that it was like, okay, the first person that Kang comes, well, I guess technically second, but the first person that Kang comes up against is Ant-Man. One, and two. I find it funny because at the end of the movie, it feels like he was channeling a little bit of his Creed, persona, because he was training for that movie that he's doing also. So I felt like a little bit of that kind of came up at the end. I'm like, okay, so y'all just turned this into a boxing match? Like, not even it was a one-sided boxing match at that.
I laughed at that. I was like, okay, but what made me laugh a little bit about that is, we all know that Kang, being introduced in an Ant-Man movie of all places was going to be a little tricky.
Right.
We all know that was going to be a tricky sell. And I feel like we've seen major characters debut, major villain characters debut like that.
Oh, sure.
In offbeat ways and in offbeat titles. But I think what sold it is that Kang doesn't intrinsically have powers. Right?
Okay, sure.
He doesn't intrinsically have powers. So I feel that I feel that it was an appropriate place to introduce him.
Meaning
that's just that's my feeling.
That makes sense, because he's like basically becoming into getting the powers we will know him to have by the time this whole saga is over with.
Right, and even but at the end of the day, he doesn't technically have, he just has technology. He doesn't have like he has abilities, like he's like a master combatant because he knows how to use all these weapons, and he's trained under all these masters and so on and so forth. He's like a time traveling Batman,
Sure. Yeah, sure. We didn't get the we definitely did get the tie to another long-standing Marvel character that we were expecting. But then again, I wasn't expecting that to happen, because I don't think I don't know when or if we'll ever get that. Or if they're going to tie Kang to someone else lineage-wise.
Right. I mean, there's still so much of Kang's story to tell. That all is, fodder for stories down the line, I think.
Right. And I think the one thing that was a bummer to me, but I think that the last end credit scene kind of sets up that someone else from his life was going to come up, which I thought was going to come up somehow in this movie, did not, but I see there must be saving that for Loki. If I'm guessing right, because there was somebody who had left at the end of the first season of Loki in search of and I guess they're gonna leave it there, which is kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. That being said, like, I kind of enjoyed the movie too, but I'm still kind of, I don't know, parts of it kind of annoyed me, and that is outside of the No Luis part of it, and I can't really put my finger on fully what it is even now, and it may have touched on a couple of them while talking, but
well, I mean, the fact that it's all, you know, green screen CGI.
No, I'm that part. I wouldn't worry about that part.
There's very little practical. I feel like that bugged me just a touch. You know, there wasn't a lot of kind of like, you know, Ant-Man being small in the real world, and that's always, I heard that on a podcast, and I found myself agreeing with the point that that's always fun to see, like, you know, the little, you know, like them basically running around in a powered Matchbox car, you know, doing cool, you know, things at a small level in the real world, right? So that part is, you know, gone. To, you know, that part really wasn't that was not a part of the movie.
Right.
And that felt like it was missing for me. I found myself in agreement when I heard a particular podcaster make that point. But ultimately, you know, it was very it was kind of it had echoes of Star Wars. You know, that I heard that, and I knew that, I felt that as soon as I watched that. As soon as I watched the movie, I was like, I feel it. I definitely feel that.
So yeah, I can see it. And you're not the only ones complaining about the CG in it, apparently, which we will get to in the news, because apparently some effects artists were also, but probably for a slightly different reason than
overworked and underpaid.
Actually, yes and no, not really.
Oh, no kidding.
Actually, blaming another movie for the lack of effects time budget here, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
All right.
But yeah, I guess in closing, yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not one of these people who are like I've said this loud and proudly. I do not like Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic or any of those, because that stuff's skewed and can be gamed. And I'm not saying I agree with them there. Some things you got to kind of see for yourself to kind of watch. I've seen some people who actually really, really liked it, and that's great. You know, like, I'm still kind of like about it. I've also seen some people that we know that was like, it's not good at all.
I'm positive about it. I just think it's, you know, it's not like the be all and end all, but I don't know what anyone is expecting out of the first movie of a new phase, right? Because this is just the first step in building Kang. Well, see, that's the way I took it coming in. That's the way I watched it coming in.
And that's the good part about it, because, you know, there was the mention of incursions, which got brought up again here. I was like, okay, yes, give me more, you know, to build that up, and you saw kind of seeds and shades of things. I'm like, all right, yeah, so go ahead and build up whatever. I felt like that. One thing that I could safely say that annoyed me, and I know this is the thing that happens in the beginning of the movie, where Janet was like, was that Janet like, you built, you know, you've seen this in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler for another, like, you built the signal to the quantum realm, wouldn't tell people what the deal was. And I get why, don't get me wrong, but it is a thing that happened that annoys me anywhere it shows up. It's like, you spent like 30, 45 minutes saying, no, just trust me, do this, and then it finally comes out, you know, as to why. Luckily, it didn't come out in the way that it normally comes out, and that, well, the bad guy tells, you know, everybody else, you know, what the deal is, as opposed to her telling them themselves. At least she finally told them, but it was like, okay, just go ahead and tell them what the deal is, or at least somewhat what the deal is, so, you know, we can kind of push this along, because that part was kind of annoying to me. Like, it is the thing that happens on TV and movies, and a lot of times. So,
yep.
You know, get
I
mad at
understand.
that, get mad at that, you get mad at all of them, what you do. So like this could have been, some of this could have been avoided if you just said something about that. But also that it is an enjoyable movie. No Luis was a thing. Jintora needs her own movie. That whole Micronaut stand-in thing, it was like, it is what it is. Like Agent 7 said, the MODOK thing was pretty funny.
All I have to do, if I need to smile, if I need to laugh, I just think of it, and it's hysterically fun.
You know, the whole revolution thing.
He has a character poster now. I saw it online.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I think a lot of the main ones do, so that's cool.
Yeah, he has a character poster now. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's just. I'm just gonna like save that and just laugh whenever I need to, and look at it when I need to laugh.
Right, but yeah, but they could have lost Dale and brought in Luis. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, pretty much.
That being said, though, we're going to move on unless you got something else you want to say in closing.
No, I'm good. We can move on to the Bad Batch, the 2 episodes that we watched the last week and this week.
All right. Yeah. So Bad Batches episodes number 8 and number 9 and 10.
9 and 10, yes.
Which are respectively The Crossing for episode 9 and Retrieval for episode 10, which was a 2-parter anyway, so it works out nicely. I guess we can talk about the first part because basically they take on a mission from Sid on this world they're basically on mining duty this time, and not only they get what they came for, but then lose it and also lose their ship at the same time. So now they're stuck on this world, and Omega, being the kid, was like, well, we lost our ship. We gotta find, we gotta get our ship out, get our home. And the others like, I don't know what's the problem? Especially Tech, because it was basically a big Tech and Omega bonding episode, right at the end of it. And then we cut to episode 10, which just came out, which we won't say too much about, which is them still on, basically finding themselves in a situation that gets them out of that situation. On that same planet. And also, I guess, if some people are writing the saying, maybe putting them on a path to, even though they're kind of been on this path, kind of doing more throughout the galaxy by helping out these people, which they've been kind of doing, but they've been kind of doing for, not for direct reasons. Put it that way. Not because they want to, because they just happen to be in this situation and they were doing it. But we shall see how that kind of plays out as the season goes. Which the season is going to go, speaking of, up until through the end of March, which, as 87 said before the show, we are 1 week away from March and 1 week away from The Mandalorian season 3.
Right, and a whole lot of other content.
Yes, and some of which we're going to get into right now. Excuse me, with Star Wars. I even wrote it down wrong. That's so messed up. Star Trek. Because I keep doing it.
I was about to say he has lost his Trekker privileges just now.
I ain't the only one that does that, so whatever. That's funny because I even had it in my notes. It's Star Wars Picard. That's fucked up. But anyway, Star Trek Picard season 3.
Roddykat is trying to paper over that one right away. He's like, ain't gonna, no, we gonna, no. I got you. Go ahead.
Because I was like, what? I didn't even, wow, I don't even believe I did that. So yeah, Star Trek Picard season 3 started up last week, and episode 2 of season 3 started up this week. And I know Agent 7 said he saw the first episode, but not the second one, so I won't spoil too much either way. Or I won't spoil too much in the second episode, so he's already up on the first one. And the first one's kind of basically...
The first one lays out, the first one lays out the basis for getting the band back together.
Yes.
With a couple of new introductions, a couple of new characters who are relations to old favorite characters. I was very much happy to see that Geordi got some finally.
Well, no. Well, I was about to say finally. It's been well known that he has had kids. So
Oh, I'm just thinking back to like the very the early
when he was thirsting after the hologram of the one
yeah.
So on that,
like Roddykat mentioning that we know that whatchamacallit, that Geordi and obviously other members of the TNG crew have progressed in their lives. That's if you're that's if you are totally up on all of Picard, all of the lore that has developed since that series. But as I said, once you see it right in front of you, just like, oh, good, Geordi, good work.
Yeah, and actually, and that's not the only one, because as we will see, and I know this because of social media. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So, what was I gonna say? So yeah, as I just said, it's the, I don't know if the season's called, but the first episode was definitely called The Next Generation. So because the callback, and everybody at this point, if you're even keeping up with it, know that members of the Next Generation cast are going to be coming in at certain times. One of which of last week being Beverly Crusher, who still looks actually pretty good. Gotta say,
I mean, she's no Michelle Pfeiffer, but I get it.
Well,
nope, there's very few like Michelle Pfeiffer.
But we start off the first episode with Gates McFadden's Dr. Crusher in a little spot of trouble, which she gets herself out of, and someone else is with her, which we don't see, but that kind of starts the ball off rolling, and her getting a message off to Picard, who's trying to chill with his lady Romulan friend. But apparently, things with that kind of go a certain way. And again, not to go through the whole episode because that's not the case, but that, as Agent 7 said, kind of starts the ball off rolling with the adventures here, and we get caught up on a couple of more Star Trek Picard's particular, or at least one or two Star Trek Picard particular characters, because they put Raffi through I love Raffi, but man, they put her through it.
I was about to say, I'm like, wait, they have her on this so forgive me, and we're not going to go in too deep into this because we don't want to spoil it. People may even be worse off than I am and have not yet watched either one of the first two episodes. So my understanding is that she was undercover, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Right. So they've got her basically doing like a very 80s trope, right? Of going undercover, like deep undercover.
Yeah, and you don't stop.
Deep.
They pretty much literally did the deep cover thing. Like you gotta hit this.
Yeah.
But that's in this episode, so I probably possibly given away something for Agent 7, but you'll know what I'm talking about.
At the end of the day, I'll probably watch it over the weekend.
Yeah, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you get to that point.
So. Yeah, exactly. So, but ultimately, as we were alluding to in that first episode, it's about getting the band back together. Mm-hmm. There is a rescue mission set up, and in order to get the rescue mission going, they need a ship, because in space you always need a ship. Mm-hmm. And that's where everything starts to coalesce around the story, and we start to see how things have progressed from season 2 to season 3 of Picard. How things have changed, that is.
Right. So, but I'm going to stop you right here and say that if you, and some might picture this as a down point, but it's not, because this is some beloved stuff. But I will safely say that if you remember parts of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and possibly a little bit of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, you will understand what is going on here in this season, in the first couple of episodes, at the very least.
I remember Khan and Undiscovered Country, not so much.
Yes, and I say parts of Khan and not Khan directly, so I'm just going to say that right there. But like I said, for those who know enough of the movie to recognize some of the beats that are and watch this season, or watch the first couple of episodes of Star Trek Picard, will definitely know, which is not any stranger to what they've been doing in the last couple of seasons, because there's been beats of stuff that they've kind of taken from Trek lore and kind of redone. You know, the whole stealing of ship thing is all through, especially, you know, Star Trek or you know, 2 even. So it's not a thing that you is not unheard of in the Trek universe. And speaking of, like, I love how when they went to go get a ship, the captain's like, "Oh no, I know about you boys." Like, no, this is not that kind of party. This is we don't do things on this ship like this. So
That's yeah. That guy. I was about to say that guy's funny. He's probably gonna die soon.
I thought that especially with the way Picard has been going, which also brings up the question of a character who comes up still a part of Starfleet at the end of last season, but has a different rank. But I know that was a temporary commission that they got at the end of that. But still, I'm kind of curious as to how it got to be that they're basically. Well, I guess never mind. I don't have to ask because I know enough about Trek to know how that could happen. But it was still kind of weird to see at first.
Right. Absolutely, I agree.
But that being said, though, I enjoyed the first couple of episodes. I think Age of 70 will enjoy the second one as well. If he enjoyed the first one, which I don't know, did you enjoy? I guess I'm assuming you did, but
yeah, it was good. It was good. I mean, I was exhausted by the time I finished it, but you know, at the end of the day, it was good.
Yeah. We alluded to Geordi. Yeah, one of his kids shows up, and I kind of want to see like a show where she's a kid at the academy and how she earned her nickname. I kind of want, because I love how Picard was like, no, was it Picard or
no, that was Riker.
That was Riker. Yeah, Riker was like, yeah, they called you Crash, and she was like, oh Lord, no. In front of the
even Picard was like, no, wait, don't go there.
Yeah. I was like, she was like, oh no, come on, man, don't do this to me. But it was good to see.
No, because at the end of the day, right? Because of the great relationship we know these characters probably all still have.
Right.
It's like the uncle, you know, like the uncle just embarrassing niece or nephew, you know?
Right. And slightly harkens back to the last episode of TNG in a way, because again, that's where we know that, well, at least in some future timeline, that Geordi has kids. Which I'm not sure if this one is one of the ones that was named there, but probably so. I would like to think they would have kept that in line. But again, still, you know, it was still good to see. And I'm looking forward to the next episode, which, by the way, Star Trek Picard season 3 comes out on Thursdays. So at least we don't have to, you know, the day of the show, we'll have something where we won't spoil anything about it. So, and I guess I know we'll talk about this later in the news section, but I'll go ahead and say it now. If you want to see the first episode of Star Trek Picard season 3, it is out there on YouTube. So I guess Paramount must have put it out there to get people into it, because I know people are excited about it. So there is that. And now we're going to move on to one last thing that I'm going to talk about very, very briefly. In that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur came out on Disney Plus a couple of weeks ago. It was 6 episodes, all half an hour apiece. It is definitely, as I told Agent 70 before the show, it's definitely geared before the little ones. They have taken a couple of liberties with the characters, in that they aged up Lunella, because she's 9 in the books and she's 13 here in the show. And they don't really talk about her inhuman. Actually, they didn't brought up any of her inhuman traits in her relation to Devil Dinosaur, but they can definitely understand each other like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy in a way. So that is kind of how that goes. So it is kind of different than the comic book version, definitely. So they pretty much set it up as like, yeah, she's, you know, she ends up protecting the Lower East Side. She's living with her parents and her grandparents, and they own a roller rink, which I guess has some in-universe explanation of why she's on skates, even though she's not always on skates there. Less so than she is in the comics. And like I said, it's definitely one of those things. Was like, while the first episode has some pretty amusing references to not only the Marvel universe but other characters in other media, in other similar media, which is, I found, if it's a blinking you miss. But I think I haven't. Well, from what I've seen in the 4 episodes that I've seen, not too much from there. And pretty much every episode is kind of like, hey, here's a lesson. You know, of course, as you would tend to do, is like, here's a lesson for, you know, that you learn while she's going through these, or that she learns going through these adventures of hers, type situation. Yep, kinda. And the most of the people that she has fought so far, I do know one that is coming up in the 5th episode, is one of note, or she meets, I should say. But everybody else she's going up to against so far are new to this show and not in the Marvel universe. Maybe one person who is, but that looks more like a Star Wars character than anything. And there's also one that kind of looks like a DC character, but that's the first one she fights. But that's a whole nother thing right there. So yeah, it's a good cast. It's a pretty fun show for the little ones, and even some older folks to get some fun, because it is a an amusing show for all ages. So
cool.
Yeah, when you get the chance to check it out, do check it out. Like I said, there's, especially in the first episode, there's an amusing reference that's just there from a thing. I'm like, huh. I don't know if that's going to come up in the later episode that I know that a related character would be associated with, but that was amusing that was there. So that being the case, we're going to get into the books of the week. And we are going to start off with, I believe we said, well, we got 2 weeks worth of books. We're going to start off with last week's books with Fantastic Four #4.
The creative team on Fantastic Four #4. This book is written by Ryan North with art by Iban Coelho, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So we open this issue with a big battle scene. Guess what this battle scene is, folks? It's a flashback. It's a flashback to something that has been teased, something that has already happened. Roddykat is going to go into what that something is.
Yes, we get, I'm just going to go and say that we get, after 4 issues, not 50 issues, not 4 or 5 months, but we get why the FF got booed out of New York, and why the team is split apart, because they were pretty much stopping an invasion from the negative zone.
Right.
And Reed was like, well, I got this plan. I'm going to go ahead and do it no matter what y'all say. So poof. Right. And that causes some problems, Right.
There were some unforeseen, actually, you know what it is? They were foreseen by Reed, but
exactly.
He did not take into account that these ramifications would be long-reaching, far-reaching, and have a lot of, ripple effects in and around the community that surrounds the area of the Baxter Building. Not even, forgetting even his immediate family, but ultimately he understands what it is, but just looks at it in a very Reed Richards way. And I understand why North decided to go in this direction. Reed has been depicted in this way.
Mm-hmm.
However, some writers choose, they make choices in order to move stories along, or to create story points, and to create, vectors, for change, and vectors for movement. So I feel like, making Reed miscalculating was a choice. it's not a choice that every writer makes.
Right, especially since the last volume with Slott kind of, for lack of a better word, humanized, gave a little bit more humanity to Reed's personality at times. So it's weird to kind of fall back on this as a thing, even though it's still Reed. So it's like Agent 7 said, it's still a choice and it is still kind of a part of Reed. But yeah, it is weird. But also, this is not the first time we've seen this, especially recently. It was like, hey, here we have this, character in a certain spot, but then comes the next volume of the book, the writer chooses to make certain choices.
Right.
That goes against that.
Right.
So regardless of that, it was still interesting to finally find out what happened. And also we found out what happened, like Agent 7 said, in a flashback, but also when the team kind of gets back together because of a reason due to one of them, or two of them, I should say. Well, one of them, but one of them and their betrothed, which I guess will leave them, well, they're now back together, and they will finally go back to the favorite person of the Fantastic Four universe in the next issue. So I'm looking forward to that, I should say. And I guess now that we know all of that, I guess we're going to see how they handle what happened.
Right.
And I guess I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember because there is time constraints that were talked about in the course of this. So I'm not sure I can't remember how much time has been spent. I think it did say months, right?
Yeah, just months. It wasn't that long.
Yeah, so we still got some quote unquote time to deal with the resolution of what actually happened. So we'll see how that goes. But and I say that in relation, as I said to Agent 70 earlier.
Oh no, they said it was going to be a year.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But it has been months since.
Right, exactly. Right, so we're like, let's say like a quarter of the way in.
Right. So we still got.
That's the way it seems, at least, right?
Right, which is that my point still stands. So
we're only part way through.
Right. So I'm not sure if they're going to like skip ahead a couple of times or like keep going until they'll probably take some few issues and maybe space them or.
Right.
We'll see how long they're gonna let this go out.
Right.
But
we will.
In relation to, say, Spider-Man, is what I was telling Agent 70 prior to the show. It is a good thing to see what actually happened, and now we can kind of keep going with whatever you got to do, because they are still dragging out that, as we will get to at some point tonight with this. So I guess we can go on to the next book, which is Invincible Iron Man #3 from last week.
Invincible Iron Man #3 is written by Jerry Duggan with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Brian Valenza, and again, letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. This chapter is, investigating the unfortunate passing, demise, killing of basically the backup plan that Tony Stark has had in place, unbeknownst to all of us, for all of these years, going back to his mullet days.
Going back to the Armor Wars, yeah.
Yes, going back to the mullet days, folks. So if you go back that far, to the Maulers, or to the Raiders, that is, because they look so much like the Mauler armor. That's why I said the Maulers. I literally am flipping through this.
Sure.
So if you're going back to Silver Centurion days, and this, and Rhodey flying around in a Cobra Fang that's souped up, I remember those days.
I do too. Yeah, so when he was still afraid to get back into the armor.
Exactly, because it hadn't been, at this point, had they figured out that it was ill-configured for his brain?
Oh no, this is well past that. This is when after he got burnt up in orbit, and that's why he got afraid to get back in the orbit. So this was after that, but before War Machine.
Gotcha. I couldn't remember. Yeah. Okay.
So I remember this time well. And of course, like I said, Armor Wars.
Right. And ultimately, at the end of the issue, we find out that we find out who the big bad is, at least through the first 3 issues of this story, and it's not who we all expected.
And it's not who Tony ran. You know, the folks that Tony has run through in the past, which some of which are no longer around. Right. Either, because he checked that out previously. Because honestly, I thought that myself before reading this issue. I'm like, yeah, could it have been somebody that's risen up from the dead or some kin of theirs or something? Because that has happened before. But turns out, nah, it's someone that we've seen fairly recently, chopping it up with Tony for a reason.
I was going to say, interestingly, it's not revealed in story. It's not. It's actually revealed in the to be next issue. That's the page. That's where they reveal it, and that was interesting to me.
Right, and it makes sense also because because even Agent 7 and I was talking before the show. It was like, oh right, yeah, he's around. The Street Fighter character is around and kind of in against a couple of fronts, I guess you'd say, and Tony's one of them.
Right.
So
I just think it's funny that they didn't actually reveal it in the story.
Yeah. But also, I kind of wonder if they was like, well, somehow expected you to know, or maybe it was like, no, we're just gonna hold it because it'll be the big reveal next issue, the issue type of thing, which is probably the case. Yeah.
Like if you were looking at the image, you could be confused if you're not as well read as we are amongst all of Marvel's offerings. You would be confused too.
Correct. Right. Especially if you're not reading a certain corner, or matter of fact, a certain book in a certain corner at a certain time fairly recently.
Exactly.
You would still be confused.
Yep.
So
all right.
That being the case, we're going to push to
those are 2 books from last week.
Yep. We'll get to some other books from last week and this week, but we're just going to highlight a couple for this week first before we go into rapid fire.
Sure.
Starting off with
did we agree to start with Immoral?
Oh no, I thought you said She-Hulk.
She-Hulk it is. She-Hulk number 10 is written by Rainbow Rowell with art by Takeshi Miyazawa, colors by Rico Renzi, and letters by, oh my goodness, our favorite lettering paisan is busy this week. BC's Joe Caramagna, everybody. So this issue, and what's funny about this issue is that Roddykat and I literally had to parse out some of Taka Miyazawa's very subtle art choices in this issue to figure out some storytelling choices he made that were probably dictated by the script, and they are so subtle we missed them the first time around.
Yeah, we did. So it was lucky that we had talked about it before the show. It was like, oh right, we were both kind of off on this one, but
yes, we misinterpreted I hate to say this, very clear visual cues.
Right. But it was and we did it because there was like one thing, well, 2 things. It was like a panel change and a thing that happened between the panels on the previous panel.
And a sound effect, right? Sound effect.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. That happened. That kind of
and the sequencing, right? Mm-hmm. Got it.
So, but good on him for that, I guess. So
yeah. Well, listen, well told, well scripted, well drawn. We just missed it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There was nothing wrong with any art choices or anything. It was just like, yeah, it was just kind of, get that one little thing or miss that one little thing.
Yeah, we blew that. But ultimately, I think what gave this issue so much heart for me is that it described so much of how Jen Walters feels as the Hulk that's normally in control all the time. And, a lot of her, I hate to say this, a lot of her travails in her love life, as written by other, by previously male writers for the most part, and having this particular recap of her character's history and specifically her love life being told from the perspective of a female writer or of a woman writer, made it that much better written and that much deeper to me. And I appreciated reading this story with that perspective in mind.
Right. And yeah, because most of the times, as Agent 7 says, like, yeah, this stuff has come up before. It's just, but it comes up as a passing thing that doesn't really haven't been getting any real time to either. Which, well, I think, but then again, I think that was written also by a woman. That might have. There's been some given to that Hulk book in a kind of a way. At least one part of the Jennifer Walters part was kind of given some time, but not to the extent that they did. So this was a very well done issue. It was kind of sad also because it was Jen kind of in a down moment, which is a rarity for this character. But while she has seen a few, downtimes, especially in her in her relationship status at times, we kind of see her kind of, touch on it, move on, or something like that, because like I just said, we get a little bit of service here on it, but it's not all bad because luckily she has a friend in Patsy Walker. She got a ride or die in Patsy Walker who kind of comes and they chop it up. And it's also because of what happened in the last issue, which, got us to this point, ended up, well, I'm not gonna say it ended up not being the case of what it is because it's still kind of an ongoing thing, but a situation thought of at the end of the last issue has kind of changed in a couple of different ways, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
And actually potentially goes back to an earlier, well, potentially could go back to an earlier time with the relationship she had been currently in up until now. Yeah, without giving too much away on that, that's pretty much where I'll leave it. And on the side of that, she got Doombot acquitted. Or mostly acquitted, because apparently he still got a little light charge on him.
Got a jaywalking ticket. Yeah.
Right. Because I totally forgot that was a thing that had gotten brought up a few issues ago. Because Victor LaMancha and brought in Doombot was like, yeah, he's being charged as the real Doom. Which I'm not think about it, the real Doom actually shows up somewhere this week, but unsurprisingly. But there is that. So this was a great issue for what it went through. That being said, even though it was kind of touching, or because actually the fact that it was kind of touching made it a great issue. So there's that. Is that it, or can we go on?
No, we're good.
All right. Next up, Immoral X-Men #1 of 3.
I forget that these are all miniseries, but to a certain extent, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
This book is written by Kieron Gillen, with pencils by Paco Medina, inks by Walden Wong and Victor Olathaba, colors by J. David Ramos and Chris Sotomayor, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So, this is the latest. We will talk briefly about last week's edition of the 10-year Into the Sins of Sinister storyline. This issue covers a lot of the more familiar things that came up in Sins of Sinister, because we're dealing with some of the primary characters and the fallout that comes 10 years later as they exert their evil mutant status. And there's also a nice little callback for anyone who thinks of Lord of the Rings anytime they hear a certain word that's kind of that starts with the letter P. So we'll put it, we'll leave it at that.
Yes, and it also brings up Emma Frost's rather fetishistic, that's not even a word, fetish nature.
Yeah.
All in this book. because it's like, wow, the writer really kind of been playing up on that one in this issue, which, as I've seen in a couple of places on the internet, some people are not minding that, including apparently Sinister on the cover. As I've seen people talk about that also. But there's the if you're watching the video version, you can see the cover of the issue, and there is similar imagery inside of the book as well.
Yeah.
So I found kind of amusing because like, yeah, they're really playing up to that. I don't mind it. I'm just saying, but it was like, because Emma Frost being a character who, let's face it, if you've seen her classic garb, it looks pretty fetishized.
I was gonna say she is not the submissive side.
She definitely is not, nor has ever been. And in this issue, she kind of proves as much. So here's the funny thing about this issue. This issue kind of made me think of like, yeah, you know what this reminds me of? And I can't remember if it was Axis or something after Axis, but do you remember when all of the heroes had their personalities inverted?
Yeah, I do.
This kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, with the twist that it's all like based off of genetic manipulation. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, huh, okay. I didn't think we were going to go back to something like that again, but it makes sense because what we were thinking coming into this Sense of Sinister thing, it was like we think it was going to be another Age of Apocalypse thing, which it turns out did not, but kind of, and they are pretty much holding off the fact that we can't go back to the way it was because of things that are going on between this and Nightcrawlers, and that Storm was whatever kicked off in that Storm and the Brotherhood book from a couple of weeks back. Right. That is still getting talked about here, including a couple of pages with Sinister having a hissy fit about. But this was a good issue, and like I said, yeah, this is definitely a very this is the one that kind of made me think about that whole inversion thing. It was like, yeah, okay, this is what we're kind of doing right now. So
yeah, it's definitely a play on it.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, we'll ride it out and see how this goes and see how they get out of it and whatnot. But the funny thing would be if like, yeah, they're gonna have Sinister pretty much undo the thing. Well, I guess he's been kind of trying to for his own reason, but they're gonna undo it for because of he doesn't have the control that he thought he was going to have. But
exactly, and T's not getting made the way he wants.
Exactly. So, but like I said, good issue. Yeah, not sure where this is going to go, but it is what it is. I think that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Oh, Emma stole a line from Kamala.
I don't remember.
She says, "Power is not what you are, but power is what you do," or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was like, really? So I had to I kind of made a note of that. I was like, yeah, you stole that. You stole it. I know what y'all did with Kamala, but
I mean, she does talk about spanking in this.
But there's also that too. Yes. And Sinister talks about how bad tea here is in America, which that as a tea drinker, I feel that, I guess. There was actually some pretty decent Sinister stuff in here, especially when he was going through talking to himself, actually. Mm-hmm. So there was some pretty good stuff in there. I was like, yeah, you're really kind of going through it, buddy, but hey, it's your own fault. That being said, though, we can push away from Immoral X-Men and go into rapid fire.
Alrighty, I am going to spin it up because we have a lot of books to go through, folks.
We do.
So bear with us. We will go very quickly. I'm going to just read off the titles, the creative team, and just say, hey, this is cool. Read it. Maybe drop a couple of fun things. That's about it. So here we go. Rapid fire through the first of 2 weeks worth of books. Waiting for my sound effect to play. Come on. What are you doing? What's going on? What's going on? There we go. Here we go.
Ain't got time to breathe.
So, of course, rapid fire gun jammed. First up, Avengers Forever number 14. It's written by Jason Aaron with art by Jim Toe, colors by Frank Martin and Chris Sotomayor, and Maury Hollowell, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So this issue, do I remember much of this issue? Not so much. Bottom line, though, we continue to hurtle ever forward into towards the finale of Jason Aaron's Avengers run. There's plenty of battling going on here. We touch base with so many characters who are, getting one little piece of the spotlight as, the battle continues to rage. The battle's been joined by Doom. The battle has been joined by gigantic ego-sized Doom, and I'm not even kidding about that.
I'm glad you picked up on that, because I had posted something to CB Caps on that a few days ago.
Right. So ultimately, we just continue to keep moving forward on this. There's a couple of nice little alternate Steve Rogers moments in here, but we do find out at the end of the issue that Mephisto has not gone away as a possible source of bad things happening in this book. Anything to add?
Nope, because you pretty much said most of the stuff that I barely remembered also. Carry on.
Next up is Spider-Man number 5, the first issue of this book, the first main story, that is. The main story of this book is written by Dan Slott with pencils by Mark Bagley, inks by John Dell, colors by Edgar Delgado. The second very short backup story is written by Justin A. Reynolds with art by Julian Shaw, colors by Guru EFX. All of the lettering, again, favorite very busy lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is the story of yet another alternate future, alternate past Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker. But in this one, things do not go as they did in the regular 616. Instead, the primary spider hero is the person who, unbeknownst to all of us, got bit by the same spider way back when we found out in, what was it? What was that event called?
Original Sin.
Original Sin, thank you. And that's where that whole story goes. The backup story is a silly story with Photon. I liked it because it was with Photon. I didn't like it because the story was a little too modern for both my taste and for Roddykat's taste.
Yeah, there were some language choices that neither one of us was down with from characters who we believe would never speak such, because they're not that young.
Right. And reminding us, I'm too old for this shit. Anyway, next up is X-Men number 19. It's written by Jerry Duggan with art by Stefano Caselli, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. More X-Men versus the Brood. I would also add that there is another parallel story that's being told that's going to meet up eventually in X-Men, between these two books, and that is the story that happened in Captain Marvel last week. So if you want to find out what's going on with the X-Men and Captain Marvel and the Brood, you may want to try reading both of those books right now.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks.
And that's it for me for last week's worth of books. You go ahead.
All right, so we start off with I Am Batman number 18 from last week. Written by John Ridley, art by Kristen Deuce. And Eduardo Pansico and Julio Ferreira, colors by Rex Locus, and letters by Troy Pateri. So, if you've been keeping up with this last arc, and most of you probably haven't, Jace finds out something about his family history that he was not aware of prior to this story, which I guess should probably be no surprise because it's kind of a trope. But because of this, he finds himself, he's basically finds himself not searching it out, but basically going after Ezekiel King because of what he found out from this. He and Tiffany, the not Robin, but soon to be probably called Robin at some point. Robin kind of go after them. They get themselves in some trouble and get bailed out by a friend of his who probably should have this book and not Jace because she's pretty badass. But after all of that said and done with Ezekiel King, Jace kind of tries to connect with this newly found family member of his in quite a public place while he's still in his Batman gear in broad daylight. So that part was kind of weird. But nevertheless, he's kind of going from there with his new sidekick. Where this is going to go, not quite sure. Next up, Wasp, number 2 of 4. Written by Al Ewing, art by Kasia Nye, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, so I apologize. Color artist KJ Diaz, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So a callback to Civil War II, of all things, and the New Avengers has Jan and Nadia going after another acronym from that time period. But it leads kind of back to the origin of Jan's origin as the Wasp in a way, and something that is tied to Nadia from that aforementioned time period. While they end up falling into a trap at the end of this, they pretty much show that both of the Wasps are, in their own respects, pretty badass. So it was a pretty good book for that. Monica Rambeau. Why do I have Monica Photon? That's funny. I must have been tired. Oh, Monica Rambeau, Photon, number 3 of 5. Written by Eve L. Ewing. Excuse me. With art by Iban Fiorelli and Luca Maresca, color artist Carlos Lopez, and letter artist VT's Clayton Cowell. Wait, that was last week? Shoot, messed up.
Wait, were you just humming Alouette?
I was. That happens sometimes.
That's funny. That's funny. I was, listen, from the person that had Jigga My N all up in my head all week, the writer's version,
Yes. Yeah, I don't. Well, I'm maybe thinking about my Duolingo lesson that I forgot to do tonight. But no, I think I did one earlier. Never mind.
You have freezes.
Oh, I do. But
okay.
We'll probably finish this in time. I'm sorry, I'm checking up on something real quick because I thought. Okay, no, I'll make sure I'm right. Okay, yeah. So anyway, Monica Rambeau, Photon, number 3 of 5. So I think we asked this the last time we talked about this book, and recently I was reminded that Monica Rambeau and Dr. Voodoo did actually have a relationship for some short time in the past. So, which has slightly a little bit, well, it has a little to do with this because she's still on some parallel universe for some reason that she thought was the doing of the Beyonders or this Beyonder-like character, but may have something to do with the MacGuffin in the first issue, and that being the Stone of Hala, which I feel like they're probably going to tie into the Marvels, and her Kamala and Carol's powers. Even though we know how Carol got her powers in the MCU, but I feel like they may be trying to set something up in the MCU that is kind of tying them more closely together with something like this in the relation. But regardless, there's a callback to Riri's adventures with that similar stone, and there was a panel in there that very much reminded me of the new universe, and I'm like, okay, so we're getting a new universe thing coming out of this. Turns out not really. Or so I was kind of bummed about that going after the issue, but it was pretty good regardless. So, but it also, there are some new aliens that get introduced in this issue. To what extent, I'm not sure, but she helps them out. And we found out there's a kind of a twist at the end of this as to what's been going on with Monica during all of this that she may have something to do with. And that's that. So you did X-Men number 19, and my last one from last week is Murder World, Moon Knight number 1, written by Jim Zub and Ray Fox, art by Luca Pizzarelli, color artist Matt Miller, and letters by BC's Corey Pettit. This is technically a part 4 of 5, I believe, or part 3 of 4. I can't remember which one it is because there's been a couple of these books already, but they've all been kind of one-shot stitched together under the Murder World banner. So I kind of hate that they do that because it's kind of confusing. But regardless, this is the 3rd or 4th part of this story in the fact that, hey, Arcade's doing a battle royale to situation, of course, as Arcade tends to do. Some of the contestants have kind of gotten wised up and kind of trying to take it to Arcade, but he's kind of got ready for him. One of said agents, whose attentions we have turned to at the start of this issue, is a Hydra agent trying to get some information and from Arcade and trying to take him out because of the information that they're trying to seek. But like I said, Arcade kind of gets the upper hand in the situation by using a murder LMD in the form of Moon Knight, which that is the only reason why these books have the characters that they have, because they all been murderous LMDs. But we also have another character who is who's also looking into things, who shows up at the last page of this and is going to get to the bottom of it. And as Arcade and folks say at the last part of this, oh shoot, because it's someone that they really didn't want to mess with, and not too many people do want to mess with this character because she's pretty bad, put it this way. There's a funny panel in here where the Moonlight L&D channels Sailor Moon, which are and a couple other things, and apparently there's a former Spider-Man villain that may or may not have bit the dust during this thing, or I should say, the father of a Spider-Man villain. Put it that way, and that's all I'll say about that. Even though it's been a week ago. All right, now you want to do yours for this week?
Yeah. So I don't have too much for this week left. First up is Amazing Spider-Man number 20. It's written by Joe Kelly with pencils and colors by Terry Dodson, inks by Rachel Dodson, and letters by, man, he's busy this week, our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is part 2 of this little fill-in story that Joe Kelly has put together to help put in, to help cover the story gaps from the regular Zeb Wells team. And I believe it's usually John Romita Jr. So if you're not up to date, you may want to circle back to Amazing Spider-Man number 19, which does basically set up the story. And basically the whole point of this 2-story arc is to help push a narrative. The things have changed between Peter and MJ narrative, and to push forward the Black Cat narrative. We're not sure why. We talked about that. We'll find out why. But, that's essentially what happens here. Next up is Strange Academy Finals number 4. Strange Academy Finals number 4 is written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So, let's see. How can I put this? I'm kind of sad that I believe they are gearing up for the end of this Strange Academy run, because they do mention the C word in this. Anytime the C word is mentioned with school, C word I'm referring to is commencement. Did you pick up on that?
Yes.
So they are, in fact, leading up to, I guess, the big finale of this version of Strange Academy. What I really liked about this issue, and what made this a possible Click of the Week candidate for me, is that we finally get some of the final battle lines being drawn and the setup for the final confrontation between the character who they have developed over the course of this entire Strange Academy run to to head towards that heel turn, which seemed weird, but I guess now this character's really embracing that heel turn, and some of that character's classmates who find themselves uncomfortable being heels and turn back to being baby faces, as it were. So we're starting to see some of the final battle lines being drawn, and that's why I enjoyed Strange Academy Finals number 4. Next up is Gargoyles number 3. It's written by Greg Weisman with art by George Combadais, and letters by Jeff Eckelberry. So the events of last issue are brought to a pretty dramatic climax in this issue, with childbirth that does not go to plan, or at least does not go to plan for one of the bad guys who tried to interfere with it.
At least not at first.
Right. So ultimately, I think a lot of this stuff that Weisman develops here in these first 3 issues really follows up on some of the later Gargoyles cartoon stuff, which I am unfamiliar with. But it's still fun. It's still fun to watch these characters, do their thing. And as I've said before, when we talk about Gargoyles comics, I hear the voices of the voice actors anytime I read the dialogue. Last but not least for me, for this week, is Superman number 1. It is a brand new relaunch of Superman over at over at DC Comics. Let me not say Detective Comics. Over at DC Comics. It's written by Joshua Williamson with art by Jamal Campbell, who is a new name to me, but apparently has been an industry veteran for some time now. Letters are by Ariana Marr, not under the umbrella of Visual Comic Craft or Virtual Comic Craft. Oh no, Virtual Calligraphy. I'm sorry. I am butchering all of the lettering company names together. I think it's a Virtual Calligraphy. So I will say about this relaunch of Superman that I like the spirit that Williamson put into the pages that Campbell really does a good job of bringing out. We do not have too much of the family stuff. We get a lot of the reestablishment of the status quo over at the Daily Planet. And we get Lex doing Lex things, but with an interesting twist. And we'll see where it goes. So we shall see. There is a cliffhanger ending because it is very much out of thin air that this cliffhanger ending comes in. So I am unfamiliar with recent happenings of Superman, so I don't recognize if this is a character that is coming back or if this is a brand new villain, but we shall see. It's interesting enough that I may just poke my head into this again. I forgot to read Nightwing. I think that was this week, so I did not get to that. So I apologize, folks. And that's it for me.
Not a problem. Wait, did you talk about night crawlers?
I did not. I missed it.
Oh,
Nightcrawler's #1 from last week. Sorry, folks.
no, it's fair bad because I got one I missed also. So
Nightcrawler's #1 was written by Cy Spurrier with art by Paco Medina, colors by J. David Ramos, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So the interesting thing about Nightcrawlers is that, you know, it obviously centers upon Nightcrawler, but in the sense that the Sins of Sinister story took the idea of what Nightcrawler can do and literally grafted that onto other characters, and that seems to be the premise of the book. And you know, I was uncomfortable reading it because, you know, it's not necessarily, it doesn't feel like the necessary Sins of Sinister book to read, but there aren't that many, so you know, you never know, this might tie more strongly into the Sins of Sinister story at some point in the future, because I believe these are all like 2 or 3 issue limited series.
yeah, this one is also a 3-issue, just like Immortal. And yeah, some of the stuff that came up in Nightcrawlers also came up in Immoral X-Men, in that talking about chimeras, in a sense. So there is a couple of through lines, and actually, I think this also Nightcrawlers did kind of follow up on the Storm of the Brotherhood issue that I mentioned. That was from a couple of weeks back, because they're going to end up having something to do with that, or something to do with that, put it that way. Right. So yeah, they're going to tie up in some kind of way, but I kind of agree with you. Like, yeah, it doesn't seem necessary, but they all are looking to be tied in some way.
Right. At some point, we're probably going to get some, you know, plot point that's vital to the Sins of Sinister story coming out in Nightcrawlers.
Right. Or probably not the way these go, but they're probably going to be like on the side of things. But from the way from the way that seemed like that was started off, like, yeah, everybody's kind of after this one thing that happened in one of the other books, and I guess it's probably going to be a key thing into getting things back in order, put it that way.
Right.
And there's one that I forgot from last week, which I know Agent 70 read himself, which I'll briefly talk about, which I don't think he talked about, which was Mary Jane and Black Cat #3.
Right. I was going to say, I don't have it on my list, but yeah, I did read that.
Yeah, because I know we were talking about it beforehand. So yeah, folks, we thought this, because Dark Web is over with, which this was a Dark Web tie-in, which none of the trade dresses on that, noticeably, and they're not even, no, actually they're still in Limbo. So yeah, but nevertheless, this is still going. In fact, this is going to go on for another 2 issues at that. So we weren't really sure how that was going to be the case, but nevertheless, Mary Jane and Black Cat #3, written by, excuse me, read by Jed McKay, art by Vincenzo Caruto, color artist Brian Reber, and I got Brain here for some reason. Brain. Letters by VC's Ariana Maher. So, as I say in my notes, Dark Web is over, at least but we're still here, apparently. There's a funny bit in this issue that was talking about Limbo being colonized by Earth people, because he kind of runs down the number of people from Earth that has ruled over Limbo. So
no!
So Limbo colonizers.
No.
But apparently Felicia and Mary Jane, as Felicia says, and has had kind of a pretty much a big bomb in between them that ends up coming out at the end of this issue, which we thought, as of Amazing Spider-Man 19 and this week's 20, had been hashed out, which thanks to this issue, I guess starts to be.
Right.
So yeah, because, and in that we found out why, which we still don't know why or how Mary Jane has powers, but we now know what caused them to go on the fritz. And it was the reason that I thought it was, which was the other titled person of this book. For reasons you'll have to read about. But if you put everything I just said together, you can get it. Now going into my this week's books, Darkwing Duck. Let's continue to get dangerous. I think here, there we go. Script by Amanda Debert, Art and color by Carlo Lauro. Letters by Jeff Eckelberry. So a run-in with Quackerjack influences Drake Mallard, not that Drake Mallard into a major decision, and it seems that the series is over as it just started, but not really, because this is only the second issue. But if I say the words Spider-Man no more, it kind of gives you an idea of what of that. Right. Potentially spoiler, maybe not, but it's only the second issue. So next up, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, number 3 of 5, which is a mouthful, I know, but you gotta love it. I wish it was easier. There we go. Written by Ryan Parrott, illustrated by Dan Mora, colors by Raul Angulo, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. So Shredder, surprisingly enough, after a mysterious absence, ends up joining the fight on the good guy's side. For reasons you can probably pretty much guess if you knew what was going on in the story. But nevertheless, Casey kind of plays his hands, and in the issues before this, we had the Turtles morphing, and in this issue we get the opposite of that because of things that happened in this, and of course what tends to happen in the Power Rangers universe, an invasion of Earth, or at least the beginnings of an invasion of Earth that goes into happens. Again, still got a couple more issues to go, so that I'm sure that will be taken care of. But there's an amusing set of transformations that happened in this issue. That is, for the Power Rangers universe, unsurprisingly, but also surprising, because they got dino powered stuff anyway. So there you go. Next book is Black Adam number 8 of 12. Written by Christopher Priest, with art by Eddie Barrows and Iber Ferreira and Montos. Colors by Matt Herms. I got a lot of typos there. Oh, this is ridiculous. And letters by Willie Schubert. So Adam saves a plane, which apparently got him in trouble because he did a similar thing in the beginning of this story, in the first couple of issues. But apparently some people don't like that because of that. And I don't remember what happened then as to why it made it such a big conflict. But nevertheless, kind of goes to tell Malik a story of his past, while War is pretty much sitting around eating cookies and waiting around for Adam because there's some things going on. So Malik's kind of laid out, and because he was looking for the ring that was that helped Adam kind of get better with the poisoning that he's been going through. But Malik also has that same self-poisoning, and is going through that. So we'll see how that goes on. This is book 8 of 12. So just to let folks know about that. Is this? Thank you. Next book for me is sadly the issue of this book, but it's pretty fun. Peter Parker and Miles Morales Spider-Man Double Trouble number 4 of 4. Written by Mariko Tamaki and Vita Ayala. Art by Guru Huri. And letters by VC's Corey Pettit. This is a potential click of the week for me. It was because it was fun. This is pretty much an all ages story, you might as well say, because it's definitely not in continuity in any respect. So Peter and Miles versus Thanos at a villain convention. There you go. That's the most of it. there's some fun bits in this. Is where when Thanos gives this AIM henchman an autograph, and some other things that kind of happen in this. But being that this is the last issue of this, the story wraps up, but potentially could be concluded in another set of stories, because at the end the collector shows up for a reason with a couple of creatures in his collection that should not be. Free Jeff the Land Shark, that's all I say. But of course this is, like I said, out of continuity and in all ages books. So but they could come back to this thing. It was kind of cute because the whole thing was wrapped around the fact that Miles had supposedly taken Miles to a bring your sidekick to work day thing, but I don't know if there is such a thing. And of course Miles is like, I ain't no sidekick, which he's not. And calamity kind of ensues around this villain convention. So it's a fun read. You should definitely check it out. Like I said, it is an all ages thing. So you don't feel bad about reading if you're of a certain vintage like I am, and Agent 70. Next book, excuse me, Star Wars Yoda, number 4, written by Jody Hauser, art by Luke Ross. Color artist Nolan Woodard, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So if you're looking at the video version, you can see pretty much the crux of the story here. At the beginning, there's a Force ghost of, I'm assuming we know who this is, but at this point I'm not entirely sure. It could be Qui-Gon. I doubt if it's Dooku, but we don't know who it is. But someone's trying to get Yoda's attention on Dagobah, and he's kind of ignoring them. But then flashes back to a time where Count Dooku was still a Jedi and on the council, and Yoda was trying to get him to basically teach the younglings, a thing or two about a thing or two. Like this was before, all that other stuff went down with Dooku. But Dooku is still Dooku. There's a mention of Sifo Dyas, who, if you're a Star Wars fan, that name is of some note in relation to Dooku. And there's also a Wookiee and Trandoshan initiates, to be Jedis that are coming into play here. And the Wookiee Padawan has had some disturbing visions in relation to Wookiee and Trandoshan relationships. Let's just say that Dooku may be trying to stoke, even though he doesn't know the vision himself. So, and they're still trying to make Wizard happen, because the Wizard's been coming up in like the Mandalorian and stuff like that, and I noticed that's been kind of popping up here and there, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Don't let fetch happen. Don't make fetch happen. And the last book for me, although I do have a couple of others, but I won't go through them from last week and this week, because that and the other. Tiger Division number 4 or 5. You didn't get a chance to read this book, or did you?
I haven't got. I'm an issue behind, so now 2 issues behind.
Okay. But I won't go too far into it. But it's written by Emily Kim, art by Kreese Lee, who I believe Agent 70 knows.
Yes.
Color artist Yin Nitro, and letters by VC's Ariana Maher. So I'll just say that there's more backstory, a confession, and we may have found out why Tiger Division was put together. And it all leads to a thing where, well, let's just put it this way. If you are watching the video version of this here podcast, you can see the cover, and someone comes in at the end of this issue very unexpectedly, after a thing that has kind of been the part of this whole story the whole time. So we shall see how that ends up in the last issue. But that is it for me for those. Actually, wait. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So I guess we can go with Kliq. Oh, actually, I do want to bring up another one from last week. I'm sorry. Really quick. Speaking of Star Wars. So Star Wars number 31 was from last week. And they're still in no space. It was written by Charles Soule with art by Andres Genolet. Excuse me, colors by Rachelle Rosenberg and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So like I said, they're still just trapped in no space, and they're basically getting the lay of the land from this one captain. And we found out there's some High Republic shenanigans may or may not be around here in this. And the one thing I was bringing this up for was because there is an interaction between the two of the Star Wars folk that are along for this trip, that being one Holdo and Lando, that started off one way but ended up kind of let's say different. Now I don't know if they're making that a thing or not, but apparently it's been made something. So or at least something has just started in the course of that issue. So that was kind of interesting to me. And that, folks, is the end of books. Kliqs of the week.
Yeah, right. Kliqs of the week, sir. I was about to say, why does that sound like I'm making a reference?
I know. I don't know.
Does it sound like it, right?
It does, kinda.
Kliqs of the week, sir.
We did get. Let me see. I think that's for this. Yes, that's from this week. So we got one from Dirt from this week, which was Amazing Spider-Man 20, which I agree. There was a little behind the scenes that Dirt was said he was catching up with Amazing Spider-Man, and he caught the last issue, and a part that I alluded to kind of struck him funny, as it did us as well. So that was pretty good. And I don't think if we mentioned about this in last time's Amazing Spider-Man, this is not the regular creative team. This is a guest creative team, so that the regular creative team can, I guess, take a break or something. For at least that's what it was billed in issue 19. But it's been a fun thing. And I know I remember in this particular issue that Joe Kelly, who's the writer in here, kind of put a little touch of his all-out Spider-Man in here, if you remember that. Because you remember this issue where he was like the spider sense was written out in his head. Kind of did some of that in here also. So I was like, yeah, he's kind of put a little bit of his touches in here. As long as it doesn't go Savage Spider-Man again, which this is the end of this story, so that's not going to happen, then I'm good with it, because we didn't touch that Savage Spider-Man thing for that reason. Went a little too far. Not a little too far, but just went a little too crazy,
Yeah. I was about to say, Roddykat had so many books. I'm literally like reading through Nightwing 101 from this week.
Well, thanks. I found it interesting myself, I guess.
So, but in any event, right. So, do you have candidates for last week?
Candidates for last week would probably be like FF, and maybe X-Men, because
yeah, I liked X-Men.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of the X-Men, that was the part I wanted to mention, was that like there was not too many times where you see Scott kind of rattled, but it's understandable in this case, because one, it had something to do with someone close to him, and the antagonist of the book. Wait, what is that noise?
I don't know. Oh, maybe that's it. That was me.
Oh, okay.
That was me. No, it's leaning on a key.
Oh, okay.
That was just me leaning on a key.
Not a problem. But yeah, as of last week, those would probably be the ones.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually leaning towards X-Men number 19, but I did enjoy Fantastic Four number 4 also. So I'm kind of weighing the two.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to decide on X-Men number 19, but FF number 4 was good, as Roddykat mentioned earlier. We both very much appreciate that. Ryan North did not wait, or is not waiting, a full 20 something issues, almost 2 years worth of books, in order to tell us what the hell happened.
Kind of ridiculous. Like, we get it. Don't add us or anything. We get it, but still.
Yeah, no, we understand. We just don't like it.
Right. And for myself for last week, I think I'm actually going to go with FF, actually.
Oh, there you go. Second.
Yeah. Now, for this week, what you got?
This week.
Again, folks, it's been 2 weeks worth of books, and we between us read a good bit. So you have to bear with us on this one. And I even read, like, as Agent 7 knows, that there's, between the last couple of weeks, I read some stuff that I ain't even talked about.
Yeah. So. I mean, I did too, but it's I try not to fill up the sheet so much.
Right. Because we have a special little behind the scenes, we have a little special sheet for split weeks like this.
Yeah. So let me tell you that I am in between She-Hulk number 10 and Strange Academy Finals number 4 for the reasons I said while I was talking about the books.
Okay, sure.
Is that, She-Hulk was really well written and well done, and I really appreciated the tact and tactfulness that Rainbow Rowell used in writing that story.
Mm-hmm.
And the Strange Academy Finals number 4 book, as much as I don't like the idea that series, that whole run of Strange Academy books is coming to an end, it's going to come to an end eventually. And it seems that Scotty Young and Humberto Ramos and crew are gearing up for that. So ultimately, having those battle lines being finally drawn, really, got my blood pumping. But I think I'm going to go with She-Hulk number 10 because I really just liked, I really liked the way that issue was set up, and shout out to Taka Miyazawa, who's always such a strong artist and made Roddykat and I go back and check his art out twice because both was completely missed the visual cue.
And realistically, we probably would have anyway because his art's just that good. So
yeah.
So yeah, that's a pretty good pick, definitely. That up for you. And for myself, for this week, I think my potentials are that Peter Parker and Miles Morales book, which was very amusing. I enjoyed it. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book also was good. The Star Wars Yoda book is actually kind of interesting as to what they're potentially setting up, because I think you can pretty much gather how it's going to go. But just to kind of see what actually happens and what's going to play out from it is going to be the thing. But I think I think I'm gonna go with that Peter Parker and Miles Morales book. So Peter Parker and Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Double Trouble 404. But definitely check out that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles joint. Actually, check out Darkwing Duck if you're a fan of that and Gargoyles, because those are so far have been fun, and I still need to go back and watch Gargoyles because I haven't taken the chance to do that, but that is definitely going to happen. There we go. And with that, we come to the end of our books. We're going to get into the news section, but first, let's get an ad read. I forgot to ask you about.
I was about to say I forgot to pull up. Ah, that's how many books we had to go through this week, folks.
Yeah.
So let me pick an ad read out.
Click into the E. That would be the
Because we've been at this for a while, so we know what our second ad reads. Our first ad read is going to be for Funko. Fun at first sight. I'm waiting for it to load. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise including custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
Cinematic news. Oh, great. Cinematic news as we do about this time. First up, apparently Bob Iger says that Kevin Feige was almost fired from Marvel back in 2015. So it says here that Marvel fans have heard a version of the story before, and that back in 2020, Mark Ruffalo told The Independent that Feige was ready to walk away from the studio on his own after the first Avengers movie hit the theaters back in 2012, because apparently Ike Perlmutter, who still oversaw Marvel's film projects at the time, shot down Feige's ideas to make the MCU a more inclusive space for female, Black, and LGBTQ superheroes. It wasn't until 2015 that corporate restructuring took Perlmutter out of the equation and allowed Feige to report directly to then Chairman Alan Horn, which paved the way for films, according to this article, like Black Panther, Captain America, and the Eternals to finally get greenlit. So it says here that apparently the part about Perlmutter actually trying to oust Feige from the studio was brand new information, though. Iger dropped this bombshell while he was talking to CNBC about Wendy's company chairman Nelson Peltz's recently failed bid to get a seat on Disney's board, which Perlmutter supported. When asked why Perlmutter was so insistent on having Peltz join the company, Iger remarked that the pair have a curious dynamic. So, boardroom drama for folks. Says here, quote, they have a relationship that dates back to quite some time. And it goes back to when they bought Marvel and so on and so on and so on. But you can read the article, the rest of that for yourself. Next up.
All right. So Marvel's Kevin Feige almost let a big spoiler slip out in an interview. So in a live streamed interview with Marvel.com on the Ant-Man red carpet, the spoiler-averse Marvel chief caught himself before giving away a big spoiler, quote unquote, while discussing Jonathan Majors' multiple roles in Loki and Quantumania. So basically, he's just talking about the sequence of filming, and at some point he says we've already done something, and he stops himself because he's about to give everyone a big spoiler.
Right, and that big spoiler has something to do with one of the end credits. If you didn't say,
pretty much.
We won't say which, but there you go. Speaking of Kevin Feige, he also says that Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 is being written. He told this he says, and I quote, "All I will say is that we have a story," as he told Entertainment Weekly. "We have big ideas for that being the fourth Spider-Man movie, and our writers are just putting pen to paper now." So, shock and surprise, there's potentially going to be another Spider-Man movie.
Right.
And water's wet.
With Black Cat as the female lead.
That is speculation on our part, and I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. So, but we'll see.
You know,
Next up.
That's what it seems.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Paul Rudd talks about getting to meet Stan Lee and reveals what the comic creator told him about Ant-Man in this article. Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of check that article. It was a interview with GQ where he was talking about this, and there's a quote here which you can check out for yourself. But it was, Rip Stan Lee also. Actually, speaking of Ant-Man, I just noticed there was an article about the young lady that plays Gentura, which I won't bring up here, but I was doing some research into her. Yeah, you've seen her. You may not have known you've seen her, but you've seen her because she's been in Mandalorian, Black Lightning, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also. So she's been in the Marvel Universe a few different times already before this Ant-Man movie. But anyway, Stella Meggy is to direct Marvel's Wonder Man episodes, or according to this article. So we have at least one director of that series that is still coming. And apparently Destin Daniel Cretton is also going to direct a couple of episodes as well. Andrew Guest is aboard to write the series as well, according to Dayline, which says that Marvel has no comment at this time, which, no surprise there. Next up.
So we're going back in time a little bit to the Super Bowl. Marvel Studios unveiled a new TV spot for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 during the Super Bowl. So go back and watch that. We get to see a lot of cool images of the blue suits, the blue uniforms that the Guardians are going to sport at least some of the time in this upcoming.
Yeah, there was also there was another article that I took out about the theater standees of them wearing the suit, but I was like, yeah, I'll take it out because the trailer is a bigger deal and shows the suit. So yeah, if you hadn't seen it by now, go check it out. Unless you're just trying to stay spoiler free, respectful though. Next up, let me make sure that's didn't skip anything. Thought I did. Nope. Cool. Stephen Yeun joins Marvel Studios Thunderbolts picture in a key role, according to this article. So, following his Oscar-nominated role in Minari and Steam-sealing part Nope, which I haven't seen, Stephen Yeun has continued to show his range as he's now looking to add Marvel movie to his resume. Says here that sources tell Deadline that he's going to be in Thunderbolts, but the part in a part that is not only significant to this film, but it could also play a role going forward in future films of the MCU. So we don't know who that is. And I'm trying to figure out who that could be, because we already know Harrison Ford's playing Thunderbolt Ross. So could it be the Beyonder?
I mean,
I don't know why the Beyonder would be in Thunderbolts, but still. So, yeah, that's interesting. Isn't he also Invincible, right? He's the one voicing Invincible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't say that on this article, but I figured that came up someplace. Cool. Next up.
As announced by Marvel, a short one-act version of Rogers the Musical is slated to debut at the Hyperion Theater in California Adventure Park this summer, which is Disney California Adventure Park at the Disneyland Resort for a limited time. Because they can do it all day.
I almost took a clip of that song. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm doing it. It'll probably get dinged for it anyway. So, but yeah, that whole Rogers the Musical thing is in some way coming to an actual day, which I guess we kind of felt like that was going to happen. I feel like we might have said it was going to happen because it was just, there's no way they would have put all that production into that and not actually make that a thing in some respect.
Yeah, exactly. Make it replicable. Right. They could replicate that.
Mm-hmm. Deadpool 3 adds the Crown star Emma Corrin, maybe as the villain, according to this article. So Deadline reports that Corin will portray a villain. We got that. Corin seemingly confirmed the casting news on Instagram, sharing a screenshot of Deadline's story and captioning like, "Holy hell." There's, let's see who's directing it, which is yada yada. What she's doing now, but yeah, there's no other. We don't know who it's going to be. So, if you don't know that person, Emma Corrin, she was Princess Diana in The Crown. If you watch that. Next up.
So, in a spoiler from the voice of Wolverine, Cal Dodd. So, he, in a tweet that has since been deleted, Dodd shared, quote, "Yesterday, Studio Season 2, great session, Wolverine, #Wolverine, #X-Men." And then the Marvel Snipers came out.
Exactly.
Next up.
That plus the fact that we haven't even gotten the first season of that revival yet. So, yeah,
Right.
you know the Sniper's going to be on deck for that. Let's see. Oh, American-born Chinese teaser reveals guest stars and magical locker, apparently. So it says here that any fans of, this is this article saying this, not me, but any fan of Everything Everywhere at Once, All at Once, which I still haven't watched yet, will want to check out American-born Chinese when it premieres on Disney Plus sometime this spring. Based on Jean Luen Yang's comic about a young student wrestling with both his Chinese and American identities and literal mythological figures, the series stars Oscar nominees Ki-Hu Kwan and Michelle Yeoh, among others. But just saw him on some late night. He's he's still kind of it's kind of funny. And also still kind of sounds like Short Round. We even this many times, this much later. But it says here that the trailer doesn't reveal a lot about the story, but it shows a school hallway trashed by battling Chinese deities, as well as a magic locker that opens into a fantasy realm. And the trailer is in this article, which weirdly enough almost sounds like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but we won't get to that. So next up.
As Roddykat mentioned, it is part of our discussion of the bounty of pop culture and genre content we are about to enjoy in the month of March. Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau has pointed fans to YouTube to catch up before the drop of Season 3. Especially since you might be feeling a little lost if you did not watch the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. It's almost, I don't want to say that's an indictment of that, but I feel like if he's saying that, it's like, he knows a lot of people didn't watch that show.
Right. He's just like, hey, just go to YouTube.
Right. So yeah, because I guess they're putting up, which I do for certain shows, putting up a catch-up video for this kind of stuff, which I remember seeing on my Twitter timeline. I know someone actively saying, like, yeah, I don't remember anything that happened in Mandalorian Season 2. So, which it's been a while, so I can't say I blame him, because I barely remember what happened also, except for one or two parts.
Right. I mean, listen, we go through a lot of content here, show folks, so it's hard to remember everything.
And time keeps on slipping.
Yep, pretty much. And of course,
boy, I'm too old for this shit.
Yep. Valiant Comics' Faith movie. Remember that? Moving forward at Paramount sets new writer. I feel like this is something that was like for like a good half a decade ago that they've been trying to get off the ground. Huh? Wait, what was that? Oh, well, you remember. Hey, look, Valiant was a thing. It's still a thing. I shouldn't say that. And they had been trying to get some. Actually, wait, they did get one because they got that Bloodshot thing.
That's right.
Oh, with Vin Diesel. I forgot. So they did actually get a live action movie off the ground. Yeah, and I don't know too many people who actually watched that movie. But it's, according to Variety, a live action Faith movie, which I do remember had, again, long gestating, is in early development at Paramount with Emily Carmichael of Oh No. Pacific Rim Uprising and Jurassic World Domination is what they're crediting this person with. Attached to pen the screenplay. Neil Moritz and Toby Jaffe are producing for original film, with Dan Mintz producing for Valiant Entertainment. The project was previously being developed at Sony Pictures, with screenwriter Maria Melnick of American Gods attached. So yeah, and apparently it says here that Valiant Comics title Harbinger also remains in development at Paramount as a part of the VCU. Harbinger is being set to be directed by Paul Downs Elizo. I have no idea what these credits of theirs are. And Wes Ball, who was previously attached to the film. So yeah, they're good on them for still trying to get some stuff off the ground, I guess, over there at Valiant. Next up.
So this is some petty stuff in this article. I just read through like the nitty gritty details on this.
Mm-hmm.
So, as part of Warren Beatty's deal when he directed, produced, and starred in the Dick Tracy movie back in 1990, he ended up purchasing. He previously had purchased the movie rights to the character in 1985. So in the years following, they tried to do a sequel, but it never happened. The Tribune Publishing Company, which owns the Dick Tracy comic book strip rights, filed a lawsuit against Beatty to get the movie rights back. But just like Sony, Beatty keeps putting out just enough Dick Tracy content in order to maintain the rights. He previously had done a Dick Tracy special that aired on Turner Classic Movies exactly one time. This is previously. Now, apparently, Friday, February 10th, he also was part of a Dick Tracy special that was set to air on Turner Classic Movies, titled Dick Tracy Special, Tracy Zooms In. That's wild. He's just trying to hold on to that because IP is so valuable nowadays.
Right. I mean, like, granted, Dick Tracy as a movie wasn't bad. He actually didn't do a bad job on that one. But it's also been a while. If we had a Discord and could watch said type movies of this nature, this would probably be one of them that would come up. Think.
I don't remember much of that movie at all. I did not see that in the theaters. I don't remember where and when I watched it. It might have been like on cable when I was in college.
I think that might have been the case for me as well, because it's possible that I might have watched this in the theater, but don't think so. So, but like I said, it wasn't a bad movie. It was, I guess true to the character and whatnot. It had the feel of it, but it was. At the time, comic book-based movies were not great. This would probably be one of the better ones, but this was also right after Tim Burton Batman also, so the bar was ended up being set kind of high after that.
Right.
So, but I did not know about these specials of his, and as you said earlier, yeah, that's kind of petty, but we know why he's doing it. So it's funny because you could have probably picked a better IP. But hey, if you have some affinity to it, you go.
Right, but it's like the less, if I recall, special effects budget did not have to be very big at all.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was practical, or could have been practical. Yes, correct.
That's how I remember it.
Yeah, so there is that. But next up, John Leguizamo is hoping to return for the R-rated reboot of Spawn. Not necessarily as his original role of the clown from the 1997 film, but in some capacity. And I'm pretty much paraphrased most of the article, but he says here, in an interview with comicbook.com, the actor, expressed interest in appearing in a different role for the long in development reboot. Quote, I don't know if I can play clown again if lightning strikes twice like that. Leguizamo said, but I'd love to do a cameo again somehow, end quote. This is another movie, again, around around actually the same time, around the same time. Um, yeah, it was a thing. I vaguely remember that, but also remember his performance a bit. It was like not having that much of an affinity to Spawn, and only remembering that HBO animated thing that they did, which I think I still have somewhere on VHS. That's pretty much how it starts and stops.
I don't even remember watching all of the Spawn movie.
Yeah, it's kind of forgettable. I would probably say if it was a choice to watch, and I'm going strictly on memory, watching Spawn and watching either of the Ghost Rider movies, I'd probably watch Spawn. Shout out to Michael J. White, I guess, also, who was Spawn. Next up.
I would get the story.
Of course you would.
We did get a full Fast 10 trailer, and it was pretty fun. We do get a full look at Jason Momoa's bad guy character, but we also get, and you know what sold me, and it's Fast, so it's not going to take much to sell me, but they put, the Biggie Bone Thugs track into the trailer, and I was done. I was in. As soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm in. The way they cut it was really done well also. So
yeah. Agent 70 contacted me after he saw it, which I had not seen it at the time. He mentioned he was kind of all in. I was like, yeah, it was, like you said, it wouldn't take much to get us into this, but yeah, it was definitely well played and well laid with the Biggie Bone Thugs track.
Yep.
On top of everything else that's going on in that craziness. Also, yeah. I had flashbacks of Brazil from that one part of it.
This is Brazil.
And fortunately, if you watch the trailer, you kind of get where they're going with this, because it pretty much lays out Jason Momoa's relation to things. And it's not surprising given Fast and Furious at this point, because things have a tendency to come back and forth in this series.
Right. And what's funny about it is that they do tie it into the most pivotal movie.
Uh-huh.
Other than the first movie, the movie they tie it into is the most pivotal movie.
Right.
Because that's the movie that sends us down this crazy train that we've all been on for a while now.
Right. They kind of do a thing in here, kind of, and not to give it too much away of it, but it's a trailer, it's been out there. They kind of do the similar thing as what they did with Jason Statham's character. And speaking of, there was a moment in that trailer I wish, like, y'all need to do something with these two characters.
Well, setting it up, thankfully. It's like they knew that everyone had been waiting for this. Everyone had been waiting impatiently for this, but they knew this was going to be part of the setup for the last two movies.
Right. Also, this is what I need. Hashtag reunion for Han and Giselle. I know it's not gonna happen,
like I kind of want to see her come back now.
Yes.
Especially given the fact that Wonder Woman 3 has been taken off the board.
Yeah, but even if that wasn't the case, I would have, like, come on, this is going to be the end of this thing for now. So they brought back almost everybody else.
Right. They should bring back Giselle.
Yes.
Do it for Han.
Hell, do it for us and Han. Exactly. Because that still pisses me off, and I'm not going to go through it right now, because how did the same thing happen to two different characters, but one came back? Just so happened to miraculously make it. Anyway, let us move on. Actually, I think you might have mentioned this, and I almost feel similarly to go back and kind of rewatch all of those. But I feel like it hasn't been too terribly long since I've watched all of those. Because I know me and wife did a rewatch right before the last one came out.
Okay.
And I showed her this video. She was like, okay. Well, yep, that's kind of the right response.
That's right.
So, next up, though, Transformers Rise of the Beast Super Bowl kickoff trailer teased released. So, yeah, there was the Super Bowl brought many things. Who cares about the sports ball? Shout out to whoever won. But trailers abound, including I think one or two that I didn't put in here. I think I can't remember if the Indiana Jones trailer was out there, but it might not have been. Who knows? But regardless, there was another teaser for Transformers: Rise of the Beast. It was all right. I don't know if I'll watch that in theaters, but I am kind of more curious about it. Yeah, it does say that the Indiana Jones one came out. I don't have a thing for it, but oh well. Yeah, more interested than I was, but I don't know. It's still a Transformers movie, and I can't remember if Bay's still involved with it. And I still haven't seen the majority of those, and I'm a Transformers fan. It doesn't mean you watch everything. Still.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't remember watching the Transformers: Rise of the Beast teaser trailer.
Yeah. Next up.
All right, so I'm going to combine these next two.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So we got a first look poster for DC's The Flash movie, and it features DC universes colliding. It has the image of it has Ezra Miller's The Flash standing in the Batcave of Michael Keaton's Batman, and the follow-up story is obviously the premiere of the Flash Super Bowl TV spot, and that was basically the first trailer for the Flash movie, and it got a lot of people, and the that TV spot led into the drop of a new trailer, and together that got people that I know excited.
Yeah, same
and
here.
Very, very. It produced very conflicting feelings in a lot of people.
Yes. For reasons we have been through before talking about this movie and the star of.
Exactly.
So, actually, it's kind of funny on my side, similar, but also apparently some people didn't know Keaton was in this because people were like, "Oh my God, it's Keaton Batman." I'm like, wait, this is kind of been news for a good minute now. So, but not everybody kind of keeps up with everything, which rightly so. But also, I feel like that news was out there enough to where people would have known. So it was kind of surprising to see people still hyped and surprised that was the case.
Right. So ultimately, I was in the theater for Ant-Man when that came up, and it got a lot of people buzzing. So
yes, same. Yeah, that's enough to say about that. Oh, Joy. You know what? You want this one as a palate cleanser?
So I was disappointed that John Wick Chapter 4, the latest trailer, was not included in my showing of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
I think it was in mine.
You lucky.
I think so.
So the movie's coming out soon, March 24th. I do not yet have tickets, but we will let you know if I or Roddykat will be on Movie Protocol for that Thursday.
It might be a safe bet. I'm gonna go ahead and put it out as a safe bet.
Right. So ultimately, the trailer has a lot of cool action in it, and it does show him getting a helping hand from a new dog.
Yes.
So I am very excited to see this, just because, yeah. How's that?
Yeah. Even though the last couple of Wick movies were like, it's still more the same, but still good. I'm still interested enough to check this out.
Yep.
And actually, I'm kind of curious. And I remember seeing Tim, our partner Tim Dog 98. I think he saw this, and I think he was interested. And I think he had just finally saw the first one.
Really?
Movie. Yeah, recently.
Yeah,
I remember that was a while ago. He was like, "Yeah, I need to check out one of those," and he finally did.
Wait, did he finally say? Did he mention that on Twitter? I just haven't been on.
I think so. Yeah, it's been probably a few days to a week or so, or a couple of weeks when
I'll make sure to jump on that and respond to that, because I just enjoy it. I enjoy the Wick movies. He's so good in those.
Yeah,
Gun. Lots of guns.
You got next.
Yep. Star Trek. Well, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll just reiterate here. Star Trek Season 3's premiere is streaming on YouTube for free, so you can go check that out if you're in the US. By the way, if you happen to be coming to us from overseas, hey, let us know. But also, sadly, or if you have those 3 magic letters that you can circumvent that, which I don't think you will have to. Well, Let me not say that. Regardless, it's out there on YouTube. For the first episode. So yeah, you can check that out. Which was nice of them to do. So, and it is attached to this article, but again, like I said, territory restrictions are sure to be bound, but I'm sure resourceful people will find their way around that. Because it was a good episode. Definitely check it out. Next up,
in the category of Warner Brothers is what's that?
Oh, hold on a second. Oh, right. I forgot to put this. You carry on. I forgot to put this in. There we go.
All right. In a category of Warner Brothers is revamping the Lord of the Rings film franchise. On a Thursday earnings call, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav announced that newly installed studio leaders Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi have brokered a deal to make multiple films based on the beloved J.R.R. Tolkien books. The projects will be developed through WB label New Line Cinema, and no filmmakers have been attached to the project as yet. But in a statement to Variety, Peter Jackson, who put together the first Lord of the Rings trilogy and the trilogy based on Tolkien's The Hobbit, said that Warner Brothers has kept he and his other Lord of the Rings collaborators, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, in the loop every step of the way. Seriously? Like, these movies are like timeless.
Yeah, and as we said earlier before the show, like there's not really much else they can do that Agent 70 posted that they're not already doing, because we're already getting that Amazon show that's pretty much the prequel to all of it.
Right.
The only thing that's left is the Silmarillion.
Right.
And I think they've been using parts of that for stuff.
Right. Right, so I think they ultimately are just going to retell the story of the three of the Rings, right. Of the Lord of the Rings again.
Yes, and again, why? Now, granted, they could very well do a Star Wars thing and be like, well, you know what? There was other things going on around that, but also, let's face it, the Amazon show is kind of already doing some of that,
right?
So yeah, I don't know what else. What else this is? I mean, outside of an obvious cash grab,
right? Or just an updating, because I guess as we continue to live this, like literally every second of every day.
Boy, I'm too old for this shit.
Mm-hmm.
What's old is new again, and ultimately, we're just now starting to see the things that we thought were, like really good parts of our young adulthood are already ripe for remaking and reimagining.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Also, the Embracer group embracing things as they tend to do.
Right.
All right.
Next up.
The refresher thing. Anime Corner.
Oh!
This will be short, actually, because there's only a couple of things. Demon Slayer Season 3 premiere tickets are now on sale, which I believe Agent 70 said he's...
That's next weekend!
It is next weekend.
I got tickets already. I'm in.
Yep.
I was just looking at my calendar for next week because someone asked me about what I was doing on Saturday. I was like, oh snap! I already got something that evening. I'm free earlier in the day, but that evening I'm tied up. I am watching Demon Slayer.
So yeah, if you did not know, and I'm not sure how you didn't, Demon Slayer's special theatrical premiere to the Swordsmith Village will be hitting theaters across North America on March 3rd. Features episodes 10 and 11 of the Entertainment District, which was the last two coming out of it, and combined with an extended version of episode 1 of the Swordsmith Village arc. Tickets are now on sale for the 4K remastered edition of the series. I would almost be curious to go to that, but I kind of just want to just wait and like I feel like that extended part thing is going to probably come to Crunchyroll or whatever at some point, but at the same time, I kind of want to see it. Plus, I vaguely remember how the last season ended, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again, I guess.
Big screen, that's what I'm looking for.
There is that, yes. So stay tuned for Agent 70's impressions on that come that time. March is going to be an interesting month around here and for content.
It's gonna be crazy.
Oh man, this is because there's a few things. Picard, we'll get to that later on. But anyway, it's a lot.
In sad news, Leiji Matsumoto, legendary manga creator, has passed away at the age of 85. In a statement, Studio Leijisha said he died of acute heart failure on February 13th. He was known for his epic science fiction sagas, including Galaxy Express 999, Queen Emeraldas, and Space. You'll know this one: Space Battleship Yamato.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've seen all of that. Galaxy Express 999 I've heard of, but I've never seen. Space Battleship Yamato, I don't think I've seen all of, but I definitely have seen some of.
Right, I've seen some of that.
Mm-hmm. So, rest in peace to a legend, because apparently he had done a whole lot of old school stuff including like Captain Harlock, which a lot of people in the animated older folks in the anime space would probably know. So some younger. I don't want to whatever. Star Blazers also some people might know. So yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. Apparently, Daft Punk was fans of his work. And that surprises me not.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no surprises there. But anywho's, My Hero Academia preview features Deku Nagant. Is that how you pronounce that? War?
I think it's Nagant.
Nagant? Okay. Says here that the Paranormal Liberation War might have come to an end with the heroes of Class 1A and Hero Society victorious, but My Hero Academia has never made things tougher for Deku and his allies. With Midori taking a much darker approach in holding together civilization in the face of villains running amok, his newest opponent has deep ties to an unexpected organization in the Public Safety Commission, which almost sounds like Chainsaw Man, but whatever. Now new preview images have arrived, giving fans a closer look at the battle that pits Deku against the nefarious sniper Lady Nagant. So, and then it goes into digging into spoiler territory, but not so really. Hey, some things happen, and I'll leave it at that. You can read it for yourself in the article in the show notes. Next up.
So we're gonna go over into. Is there a new spillover?
No.
Okay, so we're going over into the actual manga.
Actually, no, we're just going over to the comic book news because there's no manga stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, so this is the Expanse Dragon Tooth. Okay, I see. It's a Boom Studio story. Okay.
All right.
So, the immersive universe of The Expanse has captured the imaginations of science fiction fans around the globe. I have never watched that show, but I've heard good things about it.
It's a good show.
Let's see. So, under the direct supervision and creative guidance of The Expanse creator, James S.A. Corey, superstar writer Andy Diggle, and rising star artist Rubine bring The Expanse Dragontooth, the first new story since the stunning finale episode of season 6 of the show. Pre-orders for this book began on Kickstarter recently as the latest Boom Deluxe pre-order campaign, ending its first day with a record-breaking total of $342,214. Okay.
Which beats Berserkers.
Right. I didn't even know that Berserker was a Kickstarter opener too. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, though The Expanse is a hard sci-fi show. You can, if you got Amazon, you can check it out there because it's all there. But yeah, it's a good show. I need to catch up on the last couple of seasons though. I forgot that I had not when they went over to Amazon. I forgot I had not watched any of it. Anywho's, IDW reveals the cover for May's Dark Spaces Good Deeds #1, which is the second comic book miniseries in the New York Times best-selling author. Boy, they made a note of this. Scott Snyder's curated line of IDW publishing original projects, which has been shrouded in secrecy. This eerie historical thriller of obsession, power, and redemption, carefully kept from the public, waiting for just the right time to surface. And that time is now, according to this article. In anticipation of the series launch in May, IDW has unveiled the ethereal cover artwork for the first issue, giving the first tantalizing taste of the 6-issue miniseries written by Che Grayson, with art by Kelsey Ramsey and colors by Rhonda Pattison. This here, the unifying theme of Scott Snyder's Dark Spaces line is the exploration of decisions made and the irreversible actions taken by desperate people in a desperate situation. And it kind of goes on from there. So yeah, if that's any of that sounds interesting to you, you can check that out in May. Next up.
All right, so Superman has made his first appearance in Sean Gordon Murphy's so-called Murphyverse with Batman Beyond the White Knight #8. And basically, this is about the look of the Superman suit in the Batman Beyond the White Knight or the White Knight universe. And apparently, he has no belt.
Yeah, this came out last week, and I had every intentions of reading it. In fact, actually, I started reading it and totally forgot I didn't finish it.
Oh no.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to catch up on that because I did not. Because given where that story was at, I'm like, I wasn't. Well, up until I saw this article, I was like, wait, Superman's in this somewhere? But all right, cool. But yeah, the Murphyverse stuff is good. Check it out if you haven't. I know I say that a lot, but it's very good. And I'm not a real big Batman, person, but I think it's some good stuff. DC to launch new Titans series by Tom Taylor and Nicholas Scott. So yeah. In May, as a part of the Dawn of DC initiative, the former Teen Titans it says here the former Teen Titans aren't teens anymore, and in the series, they step into the void left by the Justice League, which I think we had a similar story for that a couple of weeks back, but the first issue will be released on May 16th, 2023, with a cover by Nicholas Scott, variants by Jim Lee and Jen Bartel, variants by Dan Mora and Simone DeMayo, and a foil variant by Scott, whoever that is. And this goes on to talk about other Dawn of DC stuff that is also coming out soon, such as Shazam #1, Green Lantern, Cyborg #1, which I think we've talked about previously. So next up.
All right, so we have some preview art of Avengers #1. It's already been announced as being written by Jed MacKay with art by CF Villa. It's going to be on sale May 17th, 2023. And we've got some looks at covers, including some of the announced covers. So, hit up this article to take a look at this preview of this art.
I like that Scarlet Witch cover. Weird side note, speaking of this team, I found myself in relation to, I think, reading in Invincible Iron Man, going back and checking around the stuff that was around that time period. And we talked about Armor Wars, but I did not realize that War Machine pretty much Rhodey as War Machine pretty much got to start in the pages of Adventures West Coast, which I did not remember because that was near the end of that book, of which I think I still have all of, but still I didn't remember that being the case. And even so goes so far as the War Machine showed up in that book a couple of issues before, but not officially as that. And this was around the time that when Tony was like quote unquote dead or something like that. So it kind of took me down a rabbit hole of West Coast Avengers, going through the whole West Coast Avengers line that I think I might end up rereading, and like Armor Wars and around that time with Tony and Rhodey. So it was kind of amusing, and also in relation going back to like the Scarlet Witch and the whole Vision getting taken apart and going through all of that and realizing when certain things happen in the West Coast Avengers book at various times. So that book kind of went places. Anywho, this is some big news from this past week. The transformation of the Marvel Universe begins in Jonathan Hickman and Brian Hitch's Ultimate Invasion.
I was about to say, you just smooshed their names together.
Yeah, I know, right? Hitchman. I mean, you know what? Sure, it works. So just announced at Entertainment Weekly, it says here 2 of comic books industry's most innovative and exciting creators are teaming up. You know what? I'd agree with that. Are teaming up to reshape the Marvel Universe as you know it. This June, joined Jonathan Hickman and artist Brian Hitch in Ultimate Invasion, a revolutionary 4-issue saga that presents a surprising new chapter for Ultimate Comics and bold new strides for iconic Marvel heroes. Which actually reminds me of something that I almost mentioned when talking about a book from like last week, because an Ultimate character gets name dropped in the Wasp book, and it appears that that character and several others are coming up in this such thing, including the Illuminati, by the way, is coming back according to this article. So we haven't seen them in a while, and we know they've already been touched on in the MCU. So hey, I wonder why they're coming. I'm stopping. But this article kind of goes through a little short synopsis of what could be going on in this. It's been a while since we've seen any Ultimate characters outside of one Miles Morales to the Maker. I can't. I don't think we've seen too many other Ultimate characters in the last few years that I can remember. But this article also mentions those 2 that I mentioned also. So I'm curious of this. And Hickman around here has always been a good source of talk for us, because even at the show's beginning of Comic Book Chronicles, not too long later was Secret Wars and the lead up to it, and Hickman's run of Avengers and everything that we all pretty much enjoyed, the majority of. So looking forward to this. Hopefully we'll have Tim back on the show and have him bring up Hickman mumbo jumbo, of which I'm sure there will be some. Because that was the phrase that definitely came up around that time and during the course of all that stuff. And I can't imagine, even though he only has 4 issues of this, there's definitely going to be some Hickman mumbo jumbo going on here.
I feel like it's going to be jam packed with the mumbo jumbo. When I saw the issue count, when I saw the issue count, I was thinking, what is Hickman going to do?
Right.
In 4 issues? And obviously there's something to be said for brevity, right? But at the same time, you have to think that Hickman would not be on this if it didn't mean something for the greater Marvel universe.
And something that's probably going to be touched on again somewhere else.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you there. Hell, the Avengers stuff, what he did with the Hoxpox and the Avengers, the X-Men stuff that we're still talking about.
Exactly.
Which almost ended earlier than what it has. So
right, he would have wrapped up Hoxpox a while ago if it were not for the fact that other creators wanted to play in that sandbox.
Of which we're glad about, because yeah, there's more they could have, there's stuff that could be done here, and they're kind of
right. I mean, they're playing in that whole Sins of Sinister thing right now, and it's okay. I'm just not that big a fan of Sinister as a character, but Gillen loves him apparently. So.
Yeah. So, and they're still, heading all that off this fall. So we're still going to see into that stuff or some semblance of soon. But Hickman and Hitch actually just reminds me that I still want to kind of go back and read some of that Ultimate stuff. I know I've mentioned it before, because there's the only stuff I remember ever actually reading are like the first 2 Ultimates trades.
Gotcha.
And probably a little bit of Spider-Man around the time that Peter died and Miles came in.
Gotcha.
And around that, I think I did read 1 or 2 issues of the first first Spider stuff. But yeah, some of that stuff I don't know about. And and the Galactus stuff, I think I might have touched around, but never really read because like, what the hell is this? In that universe. So that's something, if we were still doing evergreen episodes, we may have touched on some of that. I don't know. Or may still. We'll just say we got a lot of stuff on that list. Anyway, next up. Sorry, that went a little too long.
Next,
needed to be.
yeah, I was about to say. Next up, Black Panther. I was like, Black Panther's current solo title is about to end under the guidance of John Ridley with March 8th's Black Panther number 15. So that is within a week. Marvel is wasting no time, though, because the next run of Black Panther starts up in June with a number 1 issue written by Eve L. Ewing with art by Chris Allen. And now we've gotten a look at the redesign of the costume. I'm not the biggest fan of this redesign, to be honest. I think it's a little busy. And I feel bad for the next set of artists that have to keep drawing it.
I don't know. I've seen the buzz on this out there on the Twitterverse, and some people like it and a couple of people don't like it. I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence of it myself. Yeah, I think the cape's a bit much, but it's also, or the, I guess, well,
the shoulder piece.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a cape. It's more like a kind of a cowl shawl, like he's in the desert or something. But regardless, yeah,
right.
Which I'm, for some strange reason, taken as a callback to when he had the little mini cape. But
right, no, I think so too. I think that's what it is. I think it's a play on the little mini cape.
But at the same time, I'm kind of with you.
Piece, the bandolier, not a fan.
Although I have seen shots with it without that part, and you know, I'm still kind of on the fix for it. I like it, but at the same time, I'm kind of almost in agreement with you about it being kind of busy.
I mean, it looks, you know, I can see elements of this being incorporated into like a ceremonial uniform, but not, you know, a battle uniform. That's, you know, and as I said, I feel like so many costumes, the best costumes were streamlined in order to make artists' lives easier.
Well, but hey, you know, at the same time, a good artist can work with it. And I'm not saying there are no, well, we know there are some bad artists out there, but, you know, I feel like that shoulder thing is probably going to end up being
bland.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. So, but the shoulder piece look like it's definitely going to end up being like a shield, which is, you know, so basically what I can say is this: it is a functional. It looks to be a functional suit that T'Challa, you know, he wouldn't just wear like a fashion plate suit. So I feel like everything, all of this is functional in some way, shape, or form.
Sure,
so,
of course.
For that respect, I dig it. So, you know, I don't know, the whole draped cowl thing, I don't know, but outside of that, I don't know. I'm all right with it.
Right. I mean, my thing is, you know, it's the reproducibility of it. That's why. I mean, in this day and age of computer assisted art, you never know. That might be the best part about it. They could just keep putting it on over and over again.
Yeah.
So,
and the proverbial figure that might come out of this. I'm thinking. Oh, apparently Eve L. Ewing was on Today Show talking about it. So which I need to look that up. So cool. Next up. Pink. Superstar artist Mark Brooks celebrates the X-Men and Avengers' incredible legacies in stunning new corner box variant covers. Normally I would have put this in another section, but we would have not talked about it. But the reason why I put this in is because I miss corner boxes.
mm-hmm.
And also reminds me of something I kind of wanted to do for us, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so says this was shown to retailers earlier today or recently. Actually, no, that was yesterday. At Comics Pro, the covers will feature eye-catching and classic style corner boxes that depict lineups throughout Avengers and X-Men history, starting with their original Silver Age rosters. On sale just in time for the two titles' milestone 60th anniversaries, which, by the way, Iron Man also celebrating 60 this year. See one of the industry's most celebrated talents honor the Avengers and X-Men's multitude of incredible characters with glorious headshots. Brooks's Cornerbox variant covers will run on Jed McKay and CF Villa's new Avengers run, and Jerry Duggan and Joshua Cassara's X-Men series throughout 2023. And then it goes in there with a quote from Mark Brooks. And if you're watching the video version, you can see at least one of the covers. I love Mark Brooks's art. So this is going to be some good stuff, I would like to believe. There's the original 5 X-Men, and those are the only 2 covers we get so far. So cool. Next up.
So, in some pleasant news from the Marvel Legends corner of Hasbro, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 figures were announced, and we got some cool images. And what was announced was a Mantis, a Peter Quill, a Gamora, a Rocket, and a Drax the Destroyer in the blue uniform. We also have for the first time, a Kraglin, and we have the new version of Adam Warlock. Surprisingly, although at the same time disappointingly, the Build-A-Figure is Cosmo the Space Dog.
Oh, come on. How is that disappointing?
Cosmo
Look at the
Space
little
Dog. That's what's disappointing about it.
The what?
That's the one I really want, and it's the Build-A-Figure. That's why I'm disappointed. That's why a lot of people are disappointed. Some people are disappointed because they don't like small Build-A-Figures. I'm disappointed because that's the figure I really want.
I get that, and I get the fact that small Build-A-Figures. I definitely get that, because that's like, what's the point in doing that? That smaller figure for a bigger figure. I get that. I also have attached another article to that, which gives a some more shots of the Adam Warlock figure. I had found that one first, but then that article that you just talked about presented itself. So otherwise that, they look, cool figures.
No, they're definitely good-looking figures.
Wait, I don't see the Gamora though.
No, I didn't. Did I say Gamora? I meant Nebula.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was definitely no Gamora that the show.
No, there's no Gamora because I think that's a spoiler.
Yeah. Well, she was in the trailer, but yes, not everybody saw
the
trailer.
Right, but they're probably going to spoil like some kind of change in her look, maybe.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Guardians in the classic look. So, I would still love the classic, the OG Guardians. I don't think they have Legends for those, do they?
Well, they have. They just announced the classic Yondu.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, don't they have is there a Starhawk?
No, they did a classic Vance.
Oh, Vance Astro. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They did a classic Vance Astro, and they just announced. It might be an exclusive. I forget. I don't know if it's Target or not. You may want to look into that.
Gotcha.
The classic Yondu.
I might check that out. Anyway, next up. Diamond Select toys in new stores, Cobra Kai and the Vulture. So apparently there's some Cobra Kai figures. It says here that Cobra Kai All Valley action figure box set, which retails for $40. It is Johnny Lawrence and Daniel Russo. 7 inches, 16 points of articulation, and I already told the price. And there's also a Vulture statue, which is a diorama, a 10-inch diorama, features detailed sculpting and articulation, comes packaged in a full color box window like the previous one, designed by Caesar, sculpted by Alterion, and sells for $60. There you go. Next up.
Mad Cave is set to publish Winx Club graphic novels. So, Mad Cave Studios has made a deal with the Rainbow Group to publish the Winx Club graphic novels. The middle grade titles will be published under the Paper Cuts imprint, and the young adult graphic novels as part of their Maverick line. The series is set in a magical universe and stars a girl named Bloom and her friends who become fairies when called upon to fight villains.
You know,
let's
that old chestnut.
let's see if there's any other pricing. No, that's it.
Yeah. Last but not least, we have a preview for The Neighbors, which weirdly enough reminds me of this week's Darkwing Duck in the way this title is laid out. But so announced a few months ago, The Neighbors is a new 5-issue limited series published by Boom Studios by Judd Ellison S. Doyle, with artist Leticia Cadanica of House of Slaughter and Moth, and colorist Alessandro Sartorio, excuse me. It says here that it gives a description of the miniseries about a couple that moves into a quaint mountain town with their daughter, and they become a part of a horrific chain of events that reveal that their neighbors are anything but what they seem. Says soon an unsettling woman named Agnes Early fixates on Janet and Oliver's other daughter, 2-year-old Isabel, and it goes on from there. So there's some preview art in this article if you're interested in that, and the issue itself comes out on March 22nd. There you go. And that, folks, is the end of the news. We get one last ad read.
Oh.
No, we're good. But I made a slip of the tongue.
You know what we read when it's late? We're tired. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
Alrighty, folks, and that brings us to the end of this here show. Thank you, each and every one of y'all, for coming out. Next week is going to be interesting because we have the first episode of The Mandalorian Season 3, in addition to Star Trek Picard Season 3, and some more Bad Batch to go through. And that's just for starter, in addition to whatever books come out that week.
Right. And the week after is going to be even crazier, because we will have had the opportunity to watch some Demon Slayer. We will have had the opportunity to watch some Attack on Titan.
Well, one of us will anyway.
Hey,
we'll see. I don't know if I am tempted to go to that showing, but we'll see how that works out.
I mean, I won't. No spoilers, folks. We'll just talk about it in general.
Absolutely,
in very general terms.
Absolutely. And on that note, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. PopCultureNet on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com is umbrella site therein. MDOGG98 on Twitter. CBCron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. The Kliq Nation on Twitter, which is TheKliqNation, all one word. TheKliqNation.com also, but mostly you can find him over at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off under Timothy Adams. Go check out his stuff, folks. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast portal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Coastal of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You can find us recording mostly every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. On the YouTube channel of the Kliq Nation. That's the youtube.com/TheKliqNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and hit the notification button.
But of course, 'tis the season, and whenever we go on Movie Protocol, you can definitely check us out on our aforementioned Twitter social media accounts.
Yep.
So, with that, folks, we'll be back next week for another show, which is, like I said, going to be a good, interesting time. This has been...
We're going to do our best to streamline things as best we can and not spoil too much.
Oh, and indeed. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Almost over, y'all. Yeah, I really stand. Lights out.